Good morning. Happy Thursday. I hope your day has been going wonderfully for you so far. If not, I hope it gets better. I just subjected myself to about 25 minutes of Sovcit Son news doing a full Methy Mouse talking about personal jurisdiction. His title alludes to him talking about the 13th Amendment, which is the you can't own slaves amendment. Yeah, he doesn't go there, so. But it was full Methy Mouse. It's full sovereign citizen. And he fully misunderstands everything. It's straight from the law book. Well, no. The parts from the law book I don't have any contentions with. The parts where you actually read verbatim what the law book said. It's your personal interpretations that you try to add on. Little gems like domicile is something that a corporation has. Corporations have domiciles. The state's trying to turn you into a corporation. Things like that. But if you do watch the video, I'm just going to point out a few things. Number one, he confuses the police with the court. The police aren't the court. If the police pull you over, it's not the court pulling you over. The court will end up hearing the case, but the court is the court. The court is the judge, the jury, the trappings of everything in that room. The court is who's going to be determining the guilt or innocence, the liabilities, all those fun things of a particular case. Second issue I think you all should notice is that when he's reading about personal jurisdiction, he's reading about civil personal jurisdiction. They don't really, again, there's one state I'm aware of that really talks about personal jurisdiction in their criminal case law, but it's a weird thing. It's one of, and even that state realizes that they went and screwed the pooch by doing that because it muddies the water. But you know it's talking about civil because it mentions the plaintiff. And while you can analogize the prosecution to the plaintiff or the state to the plaintiff, it's not the same kind of thing. It is a prosecution. And you also know it's talking about specifically the civil form of jurisdiction because it talks about the plaintiff. When the plaintiff files the case, the plaintiff is submitting to personal jurisdiction. He's not going to fight jurisdiction in his own case that he just filed. Now, Sovcit Son News wants to make great hay out of submitting to it, and you're submitting to the cops by pulling over from the lights, and that's how they get personal jurisdiction on you. No. The cops aren't the court. The cops aren't the court. And personal jurisdiction in a civil case isn't really that hard to understand. It's hard to get into the details, but on a broad overview, it's really easy. For a civil case, if you live in the state, and what the court means by domiciled, it means like that's the place where you live. Even if you're not there right now, it's the place you intend to return to. So a college student may go out of state to college, but his intent is to return to his home state to live. He may not be domiciled in whatever state he's attending college. If you own a summer home in Canada, you may not be domiciled in Canada. It's just a summer home. You may live in Arizona. I own a home in Arizona. I live in Arizona, right? Even I rent an apartment in Arizona. I lived in Arizona for 11 months out of the year. I have a summer home up in Canada that I go to, and I spend about a month every year during the summer. You would not be domiciled in Canada. Most likely, you would be domiciled in Arizona. It's not talking about corporations. So where you live, your home state, the state where you live, has personal jurisdiction over you if you get served process there. Or if you get served process somewhere else, like if you're at your summer home in Canada and you get served process there in Canada for whatever reason, then your state may allow that because you're going to come back home to Arizona and you'll be there for the next 11 months. And it's not wrong. It's not terribly burdensome for you to try to defend yourself from a civil complaint in Arizona, because that's where you live. That's the point of it. It's, it'd be kind of messed up if you got sued in Arizona and you normally live in, well, let's just keep you in the U.S. just for grins and giggles. Let's say you live in North Dakota and you get sued in Arizona. Well, that'd be really inconvenient, burdensome. Why are you getting sued in Arizona? What did you do in Arizona? Why is that right? What makes that fair? Well, the only way that could be right and fair, there's only a few ways. Number one is you could show up in Arizona to defend the case. Maybe for whatever reason you like the laws in Arizona, you prefer to be sued in Arizona as opposed to where you would actually have personal jurisdiction, or where the state would have personal jurisdiction. And so you agree to it because you'd rather be sued under Arizona laws for whatever reason. You think you could make that work. Maybe prefer it. Who knows? If you don't agree, if you don't show up and waive basically your objection to personal jurisdiction, then you have to have minimum and continuous, or minimum and systematic contacts. Oh God, those terms are going to screw me over. It's early in the morning. I wasn't really prepped to talk about this. Minimum continuous contacts, sufficient contacts. There's some for like if you're doing business in the state. I forget what those are. It's the Asahi Tire one. Basically, if you do enough business in that state that it wouldn't be weird to get sued in that state, then yeah. But the other one for like the person, like if you have enough contacts with the state, like let's say you don't live in Arizona, but you're driving through Arizona and you got in a car accident there. Well, then there's enough contact with the state. The personal jurisdiction is all right because that's where you got in a car accident. Your contact with the state is sufficient. That makes it the right place to sue you in. Personal jurisdiction is only about figuring out the right place to sue you in. That's all it is. What's fair to the defendant? We don't want to make it so burdensome to the defendant that he just caves in. We don't want the plaintiff to use the choice of where you get sued as a weapon to try to force settlement. Oh man, it's going to be totally inconvenient for you to have to fly to Arizona once a month to defend yourself against this particular case. That's going to be awful expensive. Why don't you just settle? Court doesn't want that. Subject matter is just, is this the right court to, is this the right, can the court hear what you're talking about? I guess is the best word. Like you can't sue for a state law claim unless it's somehow tied to the federal question. But you can't sue for a state law claim in federal court without meeting some other hurdles. But generally speaking, Bill and Bob both live in Arizona. Bill trespasses on Bob's land. It's a state tort. He can't sue Bob in federal, or Bob can't sue Bill in federal court without something else. There has to be something else. But just that state law claim by itself, the federal court doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction over it. It's just saying that we're not the right court to hear this claim. Personal jurisdiction is we don't have power over the person. Subject matter jurisdiction is we don't have the authority to make a ruling on the subject matter. You can waive personal jurisdiction. You can't waive subject matter jurisdiction, if that helps. But again, this has nothing to do with police. It has nothing to do with police. Most states, the states that I'm familiar with, have written statutes that give the police the authority to arrest and enforce all of the state laws. If you are a city police officer, your jurisdiction doesn't have to end at your city lines. It may exceed from that depending on state statute. If you're a certified peace officer or whatever under your state statute. Because there was a problem, you get cars into the deal. Problem with people crossing from one county into another, the sheriff loses the ability to arrest in the next county over. Well, that's a real problem. So typically, your typical peace officer can arrest for any crime committed in the state, typically. At least under all the state statutes that I have actually looked it up under. The states usually give the police very broad arrest powers. Peace officers get very broad arrest powers, and it's precisely to avoid having to ask stupid questions about where the county line was. So anyway, anytime you hear someone bringing up the right to travel as a defense, you've got a problem right there. That's a sovereign citizen, because that's a sovereign citizen argument. Unless they're talking about the right to travel across state lines or something like that. And not driving. But it's not a defense to a ticket, certainly. Anytime you hear somebody talking about personal jurisdiction as I've never given them personal jurisdiction. How do you have personal jurisdiction over me? If there's a cop there who has you in handcuffs, he has the authority at that point. If a state court, or if a court, any court, has you in front of them in handcuffs and a little orange jumpsuit, they have personal jurisdiction over you. That is just a no-brainer. And you can tell because you're in front of them. You haven't agreed to it. You haven't given it to them. They just have it. It's just something they have. So anyway, this is the guy that wanted to be funded to give the auditors legal advice. He lives in a van. Be careful. Be careful of people who are giving you easy outs, who start talking about things like personal jurisdiction to get out of a ticket, to get out of a traffic stop. Be careful of people who advise you to start arguing to the police at the traffic stop. No lawyer will do that, and it's because it's bad for you. You can ruin anything you have. You can talk yourself into worse punishments, fines. You can give up information. You can get a window broken. And no, the cops aren't going to pay you back for that window. If you're being a stupid sovereign citizen and you're arguing instead of complying, you get a new fix-it ticket. Or you get to fix it. Not a fix-it ticket, but you get a bill to fix your window and for the impound fees, etc., etc. You get where I'm going with this. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great day.